All right, welcome back everyone. Now that we understand that we need switches in our network, we need to learn how to navigate to our switches. We obviously, when we buy a switch, let's say from Cisco, where else are we going to get them? They may be blank, completely blank, so you have to console in just like you will console in into a router, or they can be pre-configured and they may have the ACP enabled and you get an IP address and you connect to it, what have you. But we're going to pretend that we consoled in. This switch is completely blank. There's nothing in there. So we've consoled into the switch right now using PuTTY or whatever program that you use. And then we're inside the switch. And as in the router, here we have user mode. Same thing. We'll go enable. That takes us to privilege mode. And then we'll do config T. That will take us to global configuration, and that's where we start typing all the host names and IP domain lookups and the passwords and all that stuff. We also have our line con zeros, right? A line VTYs, all that same exact thing that we've done in the router. We're probably going to do here as well. All those configurations. You can see the administrative commands, the housekeeping commands that I like to call them. Now, the things that will a little bit different is when we put an IP address on the switch. The IP address, we'll be putting it inside int VLAN 1. It shows like if it was an actual interface. There we will put the IP address and turn on VLAN 1 so we can access, because VLAN 1 by default is your native VLAN. So the native VLAN is meant for the IT people, the admin people that are going to manage this particular switch. So if we leave VLAN 1 as the native VLAN, we will need to put an IP address on there. Funny enough, the default gateway is outside VLAN 1. It's on global configuration. But again, we'll go through the configurations and you'll get to see all that. All right, but most importantly, I mean, definitely you need to know how to navigate through here. You can go inside VLAN 1. You can go inside interface F0/1, right? Why would you want to go inside an interface? The reasons that we go inside interfaces are to put port security, are to assign VLANs, all right, to deal with spanning tree. Okay, so these are the things that we do within interfaces or a range of interfaces. And we'll show you how to do range commands. You can do a lot more than just one. To trunk certain ports, and we'll talk about trunking as well. All right, but definitely you need to know how to get inside there. But more importantly, these show commands. Obviously, when you get to the test, it's either show run or show start. And there's no startup right now. If I were to do a show start, it will say startup config is not present because it's a blank switch. But I'll do a show run, and you can see what's there already. You can see all the interfaces that are there. All right, we should have 24 ports. All right, and then you see that interface VLAN 1 has no IP address and it's shut down, so you need to turn it on. There's our con, there's our VTY lines. So there's your run, and there's how you can look at everything in one shot. You can also do a show VLAN, which we've done before. You can see how many VLANs are on there, all right, and what port assignments those ports belong to. So you see your VLANs here, and you see what ports are assigned to that particular VLAN when they're active on that VLAN. And right now, all ports are active on VLAN 1. So show VLAN is an important command to know. The other one is show VTP, virtual trunking protocol. Show VTP status. All right. Once we get to that particular section in the course, I will explain VTP, and it's kind of interesting because in the newer book, they rarely mention VTP, but it is a big part of your certification. So you need to understand about the revision number. All right, this is important. This revision number right here. The operating mode, by default, they're all servers. You need to understand, hey, I would just modify by who, right? The IP address. So these are things that you'll be looking at if you have a VTP domain name, right? That will show up here. And right now we do not. We will eventually. All right, so this is an extremely important command. We've seen the MAC address table command, which is show, and then let me type it out for you. Show MAC hyphen address hyphen table. Now, one of the things that my students come back to me and they tell me, hey Laz, I tried typing Mac hyphen address hyphen table and it didn't work. I said, and my response to that, did you try doing it without the hyphens? And they're like, well, no. Well, then why? It's a program. Regardless of, you're not doing it on real live equipment, you're doing it on a simulator, just like you would in the packet tracer. So whoever programmed it, if you know that we're doing a show Mac hyphen address hyphen table, and that's the way you would do it, that's the way you would do it on a real switch, but it's not working in the simulator, do it without the hyphens. Show Mac space address space table, enter. Okay, and that will show you the MAC address table. And you need to know that because you may get a question that says, hey, this MAC address, what port is it assigned to? Show MAC address table. And then you can see right there that MAC address table is assigned to whatever port. So that is an important command. Again, you got show run, show start, show VLAN, show VTP status. All right, and we did show MAC address table. Show int, short for interface, trunk. Obviously, we have no trunk ports. That will show you all the ports that are trunked, so you know what they are. Okay, and let me see what else. Well, you know the show CDP neighbor, right? There's no neighbors right now, or show CDP neighbor detail. There's nothing to see. That's two very important commands. So these commands that I'm showing you right now, when we create our infrastructure, and we will, all right, you need to know these commands. These commands I'm giving you right now, hint, 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 write them down. All right, these are the commands that you're going to be using. All right, so you need to know what they do and how they are. And again, as we go through the configurations, I will show you how to do that. But again, the navigation of a switch is very simple. And these are the basic commands that you will use. When I go and let's say I'm troubleshooting a switch to a student or anywhere, one of the first things I do is, depending obviously, show start, because if it's a huge switch, I want to make sure that I don't bog down the switch. I can do a pipe command, whatever. But in the CCNA certification, you're going to have thousands of interfaces or nothing like that. So you can do a show start or a show run, all right? Or I can do a show port. If they're dealing with port security, I'll do a show port security, all right, for any violations. I can do a show spanning tree, all right? You're going to start getting familiar with this screen big time, big time, big time. All right, so I will break this screen down to you just like I will break down the VTP screen down to you. So you understand what that's telling you and the VTP status. All those things, all those print screens you need to be aware of, all right? The most difficult part in switching that I've seen the students, it has been with spanning tree. Not because it's that difficult to understand, it's just the port assignments can be a little tricky, but I'll show you how to get to it in a very simple method. You know me and math don't get along, even though I have a periodic table in front of me, in front of you. Me and math do not get along. So I try to do things as easy as way as possible. So let's see, let's run down the commands. Let me open up a notepad and let's run down the commands, okay? So let's do a show run, let's say, or a show start, whichever one, /start, either or. We know the difference, right? One's in RAM, one's in NVRAM. Then we do a show MAC hyphen address hyphen table, right? Shows you the ports that are assigned, the MAC addresses that are assigned to what ports, okay? Then you have show VLAN. It'll show you all the VLANs that exist within your switch. You have the show VTP status, which is virtual trunking protocol, not to be confused with trunk ports. Trunking a port and the virtual trunking protocol are two separate things. They're not the same, okay? Two separate things. You have show int trunk, which is short for interface. I'll type it out. Show interface trunk. All right, that lets you know, hey, which ports are trunked. And when we get to that particular lesson, when we start trunking ports, I'll tell you the importance of trunking ports, okay? Because you have access ports and you have trunk ports, okay? What's the other one? Oh, show spanning tree, definitely. Show spanning hyphen tree. You need to be aware of those. So these right here are very, very important commands that you really need to be aware of. Let me see, show MAC address table, show VLAN, show BTP status, show interface trunk, show spanning tree. Obviously, the same things we did on the router, which was show CDP, neighbor, neighbor, or show CDP, neighbor, detail, right? Because you want to look at who your neighbors are. Is it a switch? Is it a router? What platform are they using? What IP address are they using? Maybe by the IP address, you can, conclude, hey, when I do show CDP neighbor, I do show VTP status, right? I get who just updated me. And then I say, okay, that's the IP address. Okay, that's show VTP status. I see the IP address that just updated me. Great. Now I'm going to do show CDP neighbor detail. And I'm going to match up those IP addresses so I can get the name of the person that just updated me. So this is how you would use these commands. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, you will be confronting these commands, all right, when you do your layer 2. And that's another thing I want to drill on. This test, the CCNA, deals with layer 2 switching. A lot of students tell me, Laz, I have layer 3, and that's great news for you guys. Awesome. But guess what? This is not a layer 3 switch. This is layer 2 switching. Why? I don't know. There's a saying that goes, ours is not to question why, just to do or die, right? So we just need to understand that when we take this test, is a layer 2 switch, period. Focus on that. Once you get your CCNA certification, then you can do whatever you want. But you need that piece of paper. So learn the information that is required, that I'm giving you, and that you're researching out there, so you can pass the certification. All right, if you listen to what I'm telling you, if you follow these commands and you learn these commands, and as we go through the configurations, you will get to understand them and use them, then you'll be all right for the switching part of the course. And it's really not that bad. It really isn't. It just takes practice, just like anything. You need to be practicing every day. So again, navigation through the switch, pretty much the same as the router, no big deal. Enable, config T, line con 0, interface this, interface VLAN, or interface F0, whatever. All right, so not a big deal. All right, the show commands is what I'm more concerned about. The configurations, you guys got it. That's no big deal. I got this. You're going to be bored after a while because you're going to be configuring. It's like, my God, how many times are we going to do this? All right, but it's repetition breeds retention. Repetition breeds retention. All right, these things need to become second nature to you. Okay, and the show commands are really, really important. Just like in the routing when we did the show IP EIGRP topology to take a look at the topology table, or we did the show IP OSPF interface and we looked at the interface to see the priority numbers and all that. Well, the same thing goes for the switches. We need to understand the show commands so we know what we're looking at. Okay, all right, so navigation, you know it. There's your commands right there. Make sure you know it. Okay, so I guess I'll be seeing you in the next lesson so we can start doing some configurations.